Assalamu alaikum. You're watching Views and News and I'm Faisal Rehman live from our Islamabad studios. Today we'll be talking about two very important issues. The one is about Kashmir, where today is the 59th day. Almost 2 months have passed. The curfew has been imposed in most of the areas in Kashmir. People are still struggling even to get hold of clean drinking water or the medicines, or for that matter, food even. Children can't go to school, university and college students can't go to their colleges, and the current situation is that still there is no communication. People do not know exactly what has happened, but according to certain sources, more than 14,000 youngsters, college students, school students have been picked up by the Indian armed forces and they've been sent to various jails all over India. There's another report that many Kashmiris have been killed. But yesterday there was another victim. Today we're also hearing that people have been beaten again. Those who ever came out were brutally tortured by the Indian forces. Most of them are picked up and are sent to jails. But according to, again, certain very reliable resources, that the space in the jails in the Indian occupied Kashmir, that's limited. So that's why the number of people they have arrested, that's huge. So you can well imagine what's the future of those people. As far as the elderly are concerned, there is no medical facility so far. All those who were blinded are still suffering. Those who were beaten, certain members of the political parties were also beaten to death. Just imagine. Most of these Hurriyat leaders, they are still in the custody of the Indian occupied forces. Now, as I earlier mentioned, today is the 59th day, and that's a long time. Just imagine that the curfew normally stays on for 2, 3, 4 days maybe, but this is almost 2 months now, and God knows what's going to happen since there is no relaxation even as far as the hours of curfew are concerned. This is going to be our first topic, and we'll also tell you what Mehbooba Mufti is thinking, what a lot of other political party leaders are talking about at the moment. The second is again something very important, and that is about the Afghan peace process. There's this delegation already present in Pakistan, another one is coming. Under the leadership of Mullah Brother, they'll be meeting the high-ups in Pakistan. Zalmi Khalilzad is also in Pakistan. He arrived on Tuesday. So the current situation seems to be that the dialogue process is stalled. But Pakistan and other related countries, even when you talk about China, Russia or Iran for that matter, they have been taken on board. This delegation earlier met those leaders also, and let's see where it proceeds. But now, the most important part is that the elections were held in Afghanistan. Both the major contestants, Ashraf Ghani, the former president, or the current president, let's put it this way, and Mr. Abdul, the CEO, they both are saying that they have won the election. But still, it's the first round. Let's see what happens. The official number of the votes by both the candidates would be announced on the 19th of October. So that's pretty important. And then if there is a desire of the second round, that will take place, or one of these, whosoever secures more votes, will be the next president. But the turnout was so low, that was around 21%. So you can well imagine that the people of Afghanistan do not have much trust on these two as far as any change is concerned. Earlier, 2 terms of Hamid Karzai, then again Ashraf Ghani in power, nothing has changed much in Afghanistan. But as we always say, that whatever happens in Afghanistan, or the kind of process they want to engage with, or the kind of future they're looking at, it should be Afghan-owned and Afghan-led. Primarily, this is what is happening. Let's see where it leads. But this is pretty important because whatever shape that's taken in Afghanistan, that is directly going to affect Pakistan, and especially under these current circumstances. To talk about this, we have with us in our studio. Let me introduce you to our panelists. On my right is Ambassador Ali Sarwar Naqvi Saab. He's a senior diplomat. Sir, thank you very much for taking out the time and being here. We also have with us Dr. Umar Hayat Basit Saab. Abbas Saab is a foreign affairs expert. Sir, thank you very much. And we have with us Tariq Pirzada Saab, senior political commentator. Thank you very much, sir. So before we start, there are a couple of tweets, and let's see what people are talking about Kashmir. The first one says, the first tweet, it says, India has sowed the seeds for large-scale guerrilla war in occupied Kashmir by stripping the territory of its special status. Now they're talking about the Article 370 here. Kashmir will become India's Vietnam war. Markande Karju, ex-Indian Chief Justice. Now, the gentleman says that this is what can happen, and we've also learned and heard that a lot of Indian Hindu extremists, they've also been sent in the Indian occupied Kashmir to make life more miserable for the Kashmiri Muslims. The second tweet is none other than from Mehbooba Mufti. Again, she was under house arrest earlier. And the lady says they deliberately ask women to move along the concertina wires, due to which clothes of several women get torn. The police and the security officials take advantage of that. Just imagine, look at the level of their thinking. Now, this is what the Indian forces are doing out there, just to make sure that if the women, they walk around those barbed wires, what will happen is that their clothes will be torn and they might be able to see a bit of skin. This is what their thinking is. So you can well imagine what's brewing out there, what sort of an attitude they have towards the Muslims, and in particular about the Kashmiri Muslims. Now, Ambassador Saab, first of all, sir, let's start off this statement from Mehbooba Mufti, sir. I mean, what exactly is happening? What is brewing out there? We do understand people like Amit Shah or even the Prime Minister Narendra Modi, they hate Muslims. And they say that there is no place for the Muslims in India. Are they going to practically eliminate and kill those 20 crore people, sir? And if you include the minorities like Sikhs or the Christians or the Dalits for that matter, you're talking about a huge number. Maybe the number is as big as the total population of Europe, sir.
Yeah, that's right. Most distressing. The situation is very distressing. The entire idea is mad. It's absolutely insane, because as you said, that how can they do that to 200 million or so Muslims in India, and even conceive of eliminating them? And that is why Pakistan has raised the specter of genocide. It would be I prefer a less emotive term, which is ethnic cleansing. They are undertaking ethnic cleansing, which is what Serbia tried to do with the Bosnian Muslims. And this is something that the world will have to take notice of, because in Kosovo, the international community in the 90s woke up, and then they took action to establish a peacekeeping force and to effectively neutralize the government of Serbia by collective international or collective multinational action. You see, Kashmir has unfortunately transformed into a more complicated problem than it used to be before. Before, it was right of self-determination and the demand that they had for their voice to be heard. But now it is open and blatant repression of the people of Kashmir as a whole. So when there is, in fact, I have been arguing in other forums that under the right to protect R2P principle, there is Article 139, which says that the international community has a responsibility to intervene if there is a governmental action against an entire community or people. So,
we've raised our voice, and we have raised this concern on multiple forums, even during this visit of the Prime Minister in UNGA, sir.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot has been talked about, but it seems that the international community is thinking on other lines. So if you allow me, sir, let's take this debate further. Bye, sir.
Yeah, first, thank you very much. But, well, the situation and how Mehbooba Mufti is talking about, the message in a tweet might resonate with us, but let me tell you, we can't bet on Mehbooba Mufti. My understanding, the limited understanding that I have, it's a political gimmicks. Like Mehbooba Mufti is emerging as maybe opposition, but she is again going to be the part of the status quo or the part of the occupation
She was
process.
a part of that
and she will continue to be. So the real
government
opposition,
in which they
yeah,
had about
so
8, 9
they might-
ministers from BJP, if
exactly.
you remember.
So they might install another government, and she is going to be the vocal opposition leader, or maybe an opposition voice or a dissent, not the real dissent, which is the Hurriyat leaders. So it's in a way they're promoting Mehbooba Mufti to be the real dissent. And you know, she's already been the part of the process, and she has already been the part of oppression, one. And two, when you talk about that, we've been talking about this, and we've been sharing our concern and what the world knows. But remember, in 21st century, we have seen rise of ultra-radical neo-nationalism. Now, there are two champions of democracy, if you allow me to speak. One is the US, and the other is world's largest democracy, India. Now, in two rightist leaders, Modi and Trump, coming into power, they've exposed the serious fault lines that exist within the democratic system. We'll talk about this in the second session, but see, if right now what's going on in the US is Republicans accusing Democrats for Hunter Biden for using official position for the gangs, and then Democrats accusing Trump.
Now, Basit, a quick comment. I mean, you talked about USA, you talked about India, that the rightist extremists are getting into power. I mean, this is happening practically all over the globe now. Look at France, look at so many other European countries. You name it, and that's there.
Very true.
Now, one point is that, which I want you to throw light on, is about Mehbooba Mufti and Umar Abdullah. They were pretty vocal against the BJP government recently, but she was like power sharing with the same party earlier. Umar Abdullah, when he's in power, he doesn't utter a word. I mean, the moment he's in opposition, I think he's the most vocal person. Do you see the future of these two, sir? Because they have inherited politics through their family, basically.
They'll actually play the role of a dissent, but that dissent is going to be out of here. That's exactly what I was trying to say, because you started your program with Mehbooba's tweet, and that's what really disturbs me, because that can be a political gimmick, one. But two, when I'm talking about, I partially agree with Ambassador Naqvi when he says there is ethnic cleansing, but listen, given the fact that India is highly diverse, you know, and he was comparing an example of, for example, Eastern Europe. No, I tell you one thing, for a fact, listen, with the given diversity in India, I think we should thank Modi for exposing the fault lines which have never been exposed
within their own country now.
Within their own country.
They have multiple problems, and I'm sure Tariq Pirzada Saab is the right person to put that question and highlight those. Assam, Bihar, Nagaland, sir, North Kashmir, down there, you have the Tamil issue. On the extreme west of India is the Khalistan issue.
It has always been
the Punjab, when it was divided into three parts, sir, they were not happy.
Yeah.
That was primarily to dilute their power and all. Pirzada Saab.
Faisal, I mean, you have known my opinions for a long time, and I've never been as vocal as I am these days on these issues. But you know my real opinion on Kashmir, that all this talk that India will fall apart, that it will be balkanized, all these things, the racial fault lines will come to haunt India one day as unleashed by Modi and this and that. Well, fine, let that day come when that comes. But the heaven has already fallen as far as the Kashmiris are concerned. So let me start with that. The premise that since this is the 59th day, you said, and I have been saying from the day one, there'll be 59th week, and there'll be 59 months, there'll be 59 years, and again, I hate to say,
God forbid.
there'll be another 72 years. Only if we allow this situation to simmer and worsen and continue, as the Foreign Minister says, it's a long haul. Long haul means decades. Long haul means a process that literally knows no end in reality. So since 72 years have already passed, the whole situation in Kashmir has totally changed as far as the legality of the whole situation is concerned. The physical occupation was already there. So what happened in 1857 when the British took over India, they simply annexed India by changing their own law. Simple as that. This is what India has done. The ground reality has been changed. If Pakistan is serious, they have to do three things. And this is what I said in a lecture at the Fatima Jinnah University in a big way. We really had a very good audience over there. What the Prime Minister has done, it has been spectacular. He has met 70 leaders. And more than anybody else, he has been able to convince at least President Donald Trump, regardless of what my opinion is about him as a person or as a politician, very low. But as far as Kashmir and Pakistan and Afghanistan are concerned, he's the man to deal with. I'm not talking about mediation or arbitration or anything, but what we needed at the United Nations was, let me hasten the process of this conversation, we needed someone to raise the issue to the highest level in the world. That was not Imran Khan. Imran Khan tried his best. He delivered the best speech, fine. But had it not been for 8 or 9 different speeches and media briefings of President Trump himself, and prior to this UN session, he spoke in Kashmir on different occasions in terms of arbitration and blah, blah, blah. All I'm trying to say is, because the US president is the most reported person on earth, each time he spoke about Kashmir, regardless of the intent, he raised the issue to a new level. So let me really commend this Prime Minister.
So primarily what you're saying that
and his efforts.
It's a blessing in disguise in a way that this issue has become one of the major and the most important issues at the UNGA.
I'm just talking about the issue of familiarization Kashmir around the globe. That was a major problem for Pakistan. With that achieved, the second issue is we can't wait another 365 days for the second session, for the next session of General Assembly. That is not, that's not going, things will change drastically between now and then. So the one line, we need to wait for 6 months, launch massive diplomatic maneuvers in all the major 5 veto-wielding powers, deal with them, see what they say in these 5 to 6 months. 5 to 6 months, this effort that we have done at the UN, it's a lot of time. We have a momentum going on,
And
do that. But if we
fail,
let me just complete that. Please give me just a few seconds. Go to the next step. Start openly supporting as a state, not like Musharraf, as a state, support the freedom movement in Kashmir with material, with planning, intelligence, semi-military, military assistance. Don't be afraid. You're a very strong country, both as a conventional power now and also as a nuclear state. Third, if this works partially, go to the next step. If India can launch an operation in Siachen and occupy, launch an operation not like Musharraf saying these are Mujahideen, it's not Pakistan. We can't even assume, we can't even take the name of Pakistan, so we lost that battle in the most humiliating way. Use the power of the state, go into, launch an operation in Kashmir and make sure that we have a good chunk of territory, and then that is the best way to put pressure on India. Otherwise, I tell you, there is no pressure in India. Diplomacy is not going to.
Sir, the reality is,
diplomacy is not going to pressure.
They only have 900,000 troops, more than the total.
Doesn't matter.
Pakistan.
These are not 900,000 troops.
Sir,
the troops are 300 and some thousand. The rest are semi-military forces.
But what I'm saying is that even that, I mean, that's something we know, which I don't think the military is going to prove of.
See,
don't do. Then you lose Kashmir.
I mean,
I'll be very honest.
But there are other ways.
No, there is no third way.
War, I mean, that's
three
something
things.
which
I have
both countries
counted three
can't
things.
that's super
Diplomacy.
ambitious.
Pakistan would never do anything which is going
This
to be
is
against
exactly the calculation
international
of India.
norms.
This is exactly the calculation. We would not go the harder route we'll always go the softer route.
Quick comment and over to you, sir,
I'll
and then
quickly,
we'll move on to the next
I
topic.
partially, I mean, that's very ambitious, you know, that's very, very ambitious, I tell you. Things have changed and the warfare has changed in the 21st century, and particularly when there are two nuclear rivals, I tell you, occupation and between two nuclear rivals is probably not an option in 21st century. But one thing I want to tell you is that why do we have our policies individual specific? Individual centered, that is Imran Khan centered or Shah Mahmood Qureshi centered. Why don't we have our diplomacy which functions as an institution? Our foreign policy doesn't function as an institution. And second, I tell you, the warfare has evolved in a different kind of, it has played in a different generation. What we need to capitalize on is the fault lines in India. If India shows very generous, very accommodative to accommodate the people who have once been part of your political process, who have once been members of your parliament, and India is welcoming them. Can't we simply do that with Khalistani diaspora in the world, or maybe the Dalits in the world, and give them space and say, here you go, these are Indian fault lines, you capitalize on that exactly the way they're doing. You pay back in the same coin. Probably that could have been a better and innovative approach as compared with the ambitious
counter
approach
the
that my
fifth
friend is
generation
talking
warfare
about.
with the fifth generation warfare. Kinetic
Very true.
warfare is a different ballgame altogether.
It is.
And it needs a different equation altogether
Very
as well. Now, so your concluding remarks, and then we'll start about the next topic,
Well,
sir.
you see, this is a very big challenge, and for that you have to very carefully take your forward steps. I think what Tariq Saab is saying is something that we should keep in mind. But my worry about that is what you just mentioned, that they have 900,000 troops, which are more than the entire Pakistan army. Now, we could perhaps always do that, but there are many other steps that have to be taken to justify it. You, for example, you have to again go to the Security Council. You have to then press for a special representative to be appointed. Throughout the 50s and the 60s, we had special envoys of the UN proposing solutions. Now, if that doesn't work, then you reach out to the international community. You know, what we need to do, for example, is to send out special envoys to the P5 countries. We have to have interaction at the highest level.
That's what
with
India is doing.
Effectively convey to them, to the concerned countries, what this, and I think Imran Khan has been doing that himself, but the Prime Minister can't be doing that all the time.
The Foreign Minister primarily.
In his own. So, the Foreign Minister is there, and you need to reach out to the parliaments of all these countries, which is very important. You have to have parliamentary delegations. But there, you have to be very careful of getting the right people. I mean, we have had,
Faisal, I just want to add
we have
one
had
thing.
parliamentary
That's
delegations.
an old school, I tell you,
No, but I
Ambassador.
tell you,
I mean,
this
lobbying is
if
what
you
we need
don't
to
do it
focus
effectively,
on, not
if
sending
you don't
delegations,
do it
trust me.
effectively and you say it hasn't resulted in anything good or useful for us, but you have to do it very, very sharply.
No,
you
that's
have
an
to,
old school,
you have to
Ambassador.
do
I
it
mean-
in a very clever fashion. You have to mobilize. Look, like last government sent special and parliamentary delegations, but all the people who went in them were doing joyrides.
You
and
need
they
to
were
have the
totally-
right
that's-
person assigned for the right job, and he needs to conduct that appropriately.
Yes.
According to the nature of the conflict and according to the kind of people
No,
he's
Faisal,
meeting.
that's an old school.
No, no, what I'm saying is,
Allow me
what's
to
the new
disagree.
school,
There's
sir?
nothing
I'm
old
just
or
coming to
new.
you, Faisal.
I mean, you have to do.
Allow me
Quick
to
comment and
disagree.
over to you,
Very
sir.
quick comment. You know, sending delegates and sending envoys in the P5 is not going to work. How India works is definitely very, very different.
But they've taken a
They-
lot of
they do
time to do that,
lobbying.
sir.
I'll
They
tell you,
have
no,
penetrated
they do
in
lobbying.
everything.
That's exactly what you need to do. Or is your diplomatic staff doing that?
That is just
have
one
they
portion.
been
In their
doing that?
universities, schools, colleges,
That's
as
lobbying.
doctors,
That's
as engineers,
engaging with your
as
diaspora.
businessmen.
That's engaging with your diaspora.
That's
Is
what I'm
your
saying.
diplomatic staff doing that? Have they been doing that? Is a question. That's exactly what I'm talking about. We need to have a knowledge-based diplomacy and innovative diplomacy, and we have to have a long-run plan. And you know what? Allow me to speak one interesting idea. Well, I'm really thinking about why don't we have
Kashmir team and PSL, by the way? Are they not going to be our ambassadors? Think about innovative solutions.
I
Why
mean, there
can't we
are
have
multiple
innovative
ways to market
solutions?
the case,
There
and
are
you
mu-
can give a very
and
softer
lobbying.
image of that side
See,
also.
we have to-
But obviously, you know, there are certain times which really. Let me put this question this way, sir. Now, this is 2019. There's a different approach. I mean, when I did my MBA, that was way back 20 years ago, maybe more. I think it's been 23 years now. We studied and we thought we knew everything then. But now when I look at the course studies and everything, now the volume 8 and 9 which we studied, now they've got volume 23, 24. So the markets have changed, the dynamics have changed, these applications were not that there at that time. Now it's a different ball game altogether, you know, your bills, your everything, it's been paid through your phone now. You just do that, you need to do this, and that's it, taken, gone. Somebody commented about the application, I mean, this application was, I'm not sure whether it was made in the Ministry of IT or otherwise, that subsidized, you know, whatever way they have done it. But everybody was criticizing Khan. I just said, listen, this is the future. I think being innovative, being creative, and then the market penetration is so important, and it needs to be done on various grounds, various ways, in various areas. Just only through diplomacy, I mean, that's just one way.
And that's not going to work.
That's exactly what I said. Give yourself 6 to 7 months. Keep in mind, this is the best momentum you have generated and could generate even in future. I don't think so. You can exceed that. This is the level. This is the highest point in diplomacy that you have achieved. Number 2, I've said in the next 6 months, this Prime Minister, not the Foreign Minister. I don't think Foreign Minister would be an as attractive a fellow in those characters. Imran Khan is a likable guy. Let me give one more credit to him. People
He
may
has
not
the
agree with
charisma,
him.
he has the presence.
He has a powerful
People like
presence.
him.
People just want to talk to him, may not want to agree to him. So he has to do it personally in 5 capitals. The rest of the stuff has to be done by the foreign minister or some of the foreign minister. One thing. But let me say very sadly that you cannot put together a diplomatic support greater than the diplomatic support mustered and put together in the history of Palestine movement by the Palestinians themselves. 160 or 70 countries are still supporting them. And the result is zero. The result is zero because the military option is so limited in their favor. They have there are no weapons creeping.
3 or 4
Let me just.
rockets are fired, and you know what happens
those
to them
rockets
later,
are.
sir.
Are we not joking? Are we not kidding?
And
those are just
these big rockets,
those are
homemade rockets.
Those are fireworks.
Fireworks,
All
basically.
right,
And see what happens, the real fireworks.
No. Forget that.
That's what I'm saying, sir.
No.
Injuring 2 and getting your own killed, I mean, is that
Are
the
you
right
saying,
approach? Sir?
let me argue with you on this point. Are you saying if 4 countries, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Egypt, and couple other countries
Saudi
together,
Arabia did not
no.
openly support you on that, sir.
You're changing the issue. I'm not
They're
talking about
investing
that.
another 100
I'm talking
billion in
about
India
a
now.
hypo right now. If these countries make a determination today that we have to supply weapons to the Palestinians and also send Arab, Arab brethren over there with trained Arab brethren, I tell you one thing.
80% of the countries which are practically under the influence of the Americans would cut trade ties with them. These countries would be declared
I'm just
terrorist
talking about
states.
that.
They will be in the
No,
blacklist
I'm not.
of FATF.
I am not talking about what you're talking about. I'm just talking about a hypothetical situation.
I'm talking about the...
May I say something?
Please.
That without military assistance to any war-fighting group, the result is bound to be zero. So same is going to happen in Kashmir. Because look what Imran Khan said after meeting with all the world leaders. I am so disappointed. This is what he said in New York. And the world community is not with us. It's very clear. I'm not making it up. This is what the Prime Minister of Pakistan
said so.
Okay, the next question is how to put pressure on India. I said the second option is militarily, financially, planning-wise, intelligence-wise, give all the possible assistance.
Provided you can look after the fallout of it.
We can
You
do
can-
that.
you can take the
No,
fallout.
you may not agree with me, but we can do that. It's doable.
Well, that's an
The
approach.
third thing is you have to create a niche in this mountainous region. These are not the plains of Pakistan we are talking about. This is a mountainous region. You don't need a lot of forces over there to launch operations. Do that. That will help us create
Basically, you're advising that we should go for a small-scale, limited adventure.
No.
But, sir,
It's
sir,
not ambitious.
sir, if-
I mean, that's your
We can
opinion.
definitely talk
I
about that
disagree.
in detail, sir, in
But-
detail.
Oh, hold
I'll
on
give
one
you a few
sec.
ideas
Let
also,
me
sir,
say-
but-
let me say one thing.
Sir.
In the end, it's not an ambitious, thought. It's a realistic thought because they have the occupation. You're talking about talk and rhetoric. Walk the talk. Do something on the ground. Otherwise, you have lost Kashmir forever.
All right. Moving on
I
to...
don't think we have lost Kashmir forever.
Give me
I
a
think
solid reason,
Faisal,
Ambassador. Give me a solid reason, please. I would like to be
just a
crushed
minute,
here in
if
this
you allow
program.
me to speak also, please.
Please. Crush me in this
In
program. I would love to be crushed.
1965, we did precisely that. We sent men and material across. And do you know that the Kashmiris
Please do
did
not
not
compare
support
that
Just a
situation.
minute. The
There is
Kashmiri
no
people
comparison.
did not join the people who had gone there. They, in fact, they denounced them to the police. And
Correct.
they were arrested.
Correct.
And
Say
we all,
something.
so
Okay.
let's
That's
learn
going
from
to be-
Are you
history.
saying-
Let's learn from history.
No, that's not learning from history. Actually, we are distorting the history. That was a time, there was no planning. I am aware of 65. I was alive. I mean, I was reading newspapers.
Allow me.
Okay.
Allow me.
May
allow
I
me,
just
Faisal,
say
sir.
one thing in the
Allow
end?
me. Allow
No,
me.
no,
just a
please.
word. Allow me
There are-
just a word. On one hand, you're appreciating Prime Minister Khan and our diplomacy for creating a hype. On the other hand, you're suggesting something that's
That
going
has
to go
failed.
completely against our narrative that we have. That
Yes.
we're going to support the Kashmir
Because
cause
the Prime Minister
diplomatically
says,
and politically.
I am
And you're talking about
disappointed.
the
My
militaristic
diplomacy
intervention.
has failed.
That's really strange.
Not
I
his
mean,
diplomacy.
No, this is exactly
no
the
matter what you
outcome.
said, what
No,
we
I'm
were
not
expecting out of
contradicting.
the
This is
UNGA,
the great thing
I think
about
we've
this
been able
analysis
to
that I'm
gain
offering.
a lot more than that.
No.
We're
The
appreciating this.
Prime Minister has acknowledged, admitted that he
This
has
is what
tried
he
his
said because
best.
he was so fed up because he must have talked to so many people and the
No, why would you say he
Indian
was fed up?
influence
He's a
exists.
wise
The
man.
word-
I am with his diplomatic offensive. All I'm
All
trying
right,
to say
let's start off
we
from
have
you,
to
sir,
go to
about
the
the
next
next
step.
topic.
The
First
world
one,
is
sir,
never
quick.
going to
Sir,
listen.
sir,
All right, let me
let's call
say one
this.
last thing. Let me say one last thing. Follow what the Americans have said in their entire history of diplomacy. Carrot and stick make diplomacy succeed. Don't give it up. Learn from it. You might win something.
The interesting part is that that's the United States of America, the superpower.
No, that's
They
not
can
true.
say that.
Israel
They
is
can
not.
say that.
Israel is not
Israel
United
is a
States
blue-eyed
of
little
America.
baby.
Let me use a bad example. Israel is not a United States of America. They use their power and diplomacy both with Arabs and with
Sir,
Palestinians.
Israel is so
And here's the
powerful
thing, I
when,
mean, Israel
when
is
Netanyahu
powerful
goes
because-
to United States of America, well, when there was a time when Barack Obama was the president, he did not even meet anybody from the Democrats, went, had a great interaction with the Republicans
All right,
out
listen
there,
to the gentleman.
criticized their own president and came out. I mean, and everybody hailed him and appreciated him. Now, this is the reality too, sir.
No, we're
Sir,
talking about
let's,
one
sir,
liner,
sir,
one
now.
liner. Allow me, one liner. If you understand,
It has
the
to be a
term-
one-liner,
one
sir.
liner. If you understand the term that I'm using, why Israel is powerful and their diplomacy is powerful, the term is knowledge-based diplomacy.
Well, don't
diplomacy
change the
not the
issue,
job
please.
of
It's
diplomats
carrot
and
and
bureaucrats.
stick.
It has to be knowledge-based
It's
diplomacy
carrot
that
and
brings
stick.
innovation. Knowledge-based diplomacy.
Just like knowledge-based economy.
Yes,
That's the
that's
name
the
of
term
the
I'm
game.
coining.
Now, sir,
stick.
That's the
Sir,
term
talking
I'm
about
coining.
this Afghan issue now, in one way or the other, this is going to be another problem now. Whosoever wins, whosoever loses, Pakistan is going to accept. Now the issue is that what difference will Ashraf Ghani make, sir? He's been in power for almost 5 years, 4 years.
5 years, yeah.
And then again you're talking about Abdullah, and we all know the kind of history he had and the sort of comments and the remarks he's passed about
attitude
Pakistan.
about Pakistan, yeah.
Attitude, sir, was always very hostile. And looking at him, from coming from Panjgore and again, sort of creating a lot of issues. I mean, he was from the Northern Lines,
Yeah.
always hated Pakistan for that because we supported the Taliban. Now, sir, looking at the current situation, the change would be that if he becomes the president, Ashraf Ghani, what difference will it make? And if not Ashraf Ghani, this guy, Abdullah, then what?
You see, as far as the Afghan government is concerned, Faisal, from the very beginning, they tried to keep Pakistan out, the Americans and the present dispensation. And in the Bonn conference, Pakistan was not invited. Pakistan and the Taliban, the two major players today, were both out of the Bonn Conference. So the entire system that was created through the Bonn Conference, the Afghan constitution that was given, and all that happened, Hamid Karzai, several terms, Ashraf Ghani not winning a clear majority, and then John Kerry coming and negotiating between Ashraf Ghani and Abdullah. It's a whole history. So Abdullah is a kingpin in that entire sort of story, and therefore we should be very careful and worry about Abdullah. He is a Tajik, and he
claims that he is a Pashtun. Mother is a Tajik,
he claims, but he represents the vested interest of the Tajiks. Now, I think we will have to think about how to deal with Abdullah if he is the president and the undisputed leader, which is doubtful because it's a very, very divided government. It's been
turnout was so low, sir.
Dysfunctional through most of the 5 years that they have been in power.
2.2 million people, 2.19
So,
exactly.
so now, what we have to focus on now, and I think the positive, there is the positive, that the Taliban and Zalme Khalilzad are both looking towards Pakistan to play a constructive role, and they are both coming here. The meeting will be taking place tomorrow with the Afghan delegations.
Yes.
And they have been to China and Russia, which
And Iran also.
and Iran. And I have been saying this, that the regional powers should be involved. Otherwise, there is no certainty of any stability that can be
So
established.
this Taliban Political Commission in Doha, how powerful is that?
It is, you see, they have a sort of office and base and all that, but they are not the only sort of arbiters of Afghanistan at the moment. There will be other factions, other groups, intra-Afghan
They were able
dialogue.
to open up another embassy there, if you remember.
Intra-Afghan dialogue is taking place, and the Chinese and the Russians have the right approach. I mean, Russia got all the Afghan groups together in Moscow, and I was told by the Russian ambassador that they all listened to Russia.
Was Ghani there, ambassador?
This is Ghani, no.
So
Apart from Ghani, because
Okay.
Ghani is
That
not
was
in.
not in
You see,
Afghan,
Ghani
yeah.
is not the major player in Afghanistan.
But
And
at least
at least what is going to come next, the Afghan government will have. I mean, I don't know even if it will stay. So there we have to be very, very smart. We have to play our game in a very sensible way, so that we retain our role and have at least something that takes shape, which is not hostile to Pakistan.
All right, so your take.
So very, very quick. I mean, I'll talk about one illusion and a couple of predictions or forecastings. One, the illusion that we have right now is that we're playing on our strength when it comes to our role in U.S. Taliban talks. That's not there, let me tell you. All right? We are dictated to play a role, and we are playing. We're not playing on our strength.
Well,
very
that's
simple.
we have to see.
Two, that's an illusion. If we create it, that's because of our intellectual maybe deficit or disability, whatever you term it, because we have married with realism and over-realism in our discourse
Why
when
are
it
they
comes
coming to Pakistan now?
because you're strategically located and they need your role. But it's not that you're playing on your strength. Let me tell you, that's an illusion. Second, that I'm talking about predictions. One is that U.S. is not going to withdraw its troops. Withdraw means withdraw. No single troop in the
100%.
U.S.
Maybe the
100%.
number is around
Maybe
12,000.
my guess is maximum 3,500 troops just for the public consumption that U.S. wants to show its people.
These many people have gone back, yeah.
You know what, Trump.
Make videos,
and
show the
remember,
world, yeah.
when Trump came into power, these were around 8,000, and they've increased the number. So he's going to withdraw from the people he has already sent, the troops he has already sent, right? For the public consumption, just to tell people, hey, listen, you know what, I've done something. That's all for the public consumption. So they're not going to withdraw, not even the next 20 years, not even the next 50 years. Let me tell you this, no question. Second, Afghanistan's stability is not even an objective.
That we all
That's it.
know.
That we all know. So the point actually is troops are going to stay in Afghanistan, and the peace deal that
What
we
about the
have,
future of Taliban now, if they
so-called
want some peace talks?
That's exactly what I was talking about. The question that you asked from Ambassador was the strength of, or what is the position of the Taliban sitting in Doha, for example. So their strength are field commanders in Afghanistan. That's their strength. That's why they negotiate. They fight and negotiate. That's exactly what US has been doing, fight and negotiate. Now the tables have turned, but that's going to continue. So the future of Taliban is going to be the small stake, the political face of Taliban, the Doha Taliban. They're going to have some kind of stake in the government, just in the government, some stake, but that's not going to be the leading part, or that's not going to be the
Some sort of
determining
representation
factor.
you're talking about.
Some small presentation, some very small stake in the system of Afghanistan government. But remember, the peace is not going to prevail. What's going to happen? Afghans killing Afghans. One group killing another, and that's going to continue, and that's exactly what US wants.
All right, Firzad Sahab, let's suppose on the 19th, we hear this breaking news that the Independent Election Commission of Afghanistan has said that Abdullah has won the election and he's going to be the next president, and the Americans, they hail because they said they won't intervene this time. So, well, everybody is appreciating that, and now the future of the talks with the Taliban under the sort of command in one way or the other of Abdullah. What sort of an equation that is, sir?
Well, first of all, you're mixing the two things. The United States is negotiating with only one group at the present time, and that is the Afghan Taliban. All groups included, with some dissenting elements. That's all.
Factions
It's not,
always there,
it's
will be
not,
there.
let me remove this doubt that they are talking to almost everybody. And as I said, there are some dissenting elements, but they're not really important at the present time. Mullah brother and his delegation is now in Pakistan at this moment as we speak. Zalmay Khalilzad is here. The so-called stalled talks. I never said in the last 2 months that these talks will remain stalled. I knew the talks
They were
always get
called
stalled.
off. I mean,
always get stalled in this kind of situation. It happened in Vietnam, in other places, and they get resumed. So the situation is that as a result of this Prime Minister's good diplomacy in Washington on Afghanistan, he, as the Foreign Minister also confirmed that, the talks are about to begin. It's a matter of a couple of weeks at the most. So all I'm saying is, this whole notion that Ghani and Abdullah do matter, that's really a farce. They don't matter. The result is known to the United States. It has been known to them in the previous elections when a phony office of chief executive was created by the one and only lovely diplomat and foreign minister, Mr. John Kerry. That was garbage. So all I'm trying to say is, here is the reality. The reality is, the United States knows that they have to withdraw. The agreement was almost signed. Almost signed. It was short of signature. Everything was there when that American was killed in that attack. So this is my point. That let me say that the things are moving in a direction in which there is no future for Ghani or Abdullah. The matters will be settled between the United States and Taliban, number one. Number two, there is a fundamental decision, and I'm talking about only as long as the Trump administration lasts, that they will withdraw in totality. In totality.
Let's see.
100%. 100%. But here's the catch. If we lose these 16 months and do not finish this process successfully of talks with the Trump administration and convince Taliban that this is in their best interest also, and they are very wise also. I assure you, the next American president will do what he said.
Let's see, sir. But anyway, gentlemen, thank you very much for your participation in this show. And that's all we have for this hour. I'll see you again. Till then, take good care. Khuda Hafiz.